No, this is not a story about an old TV show. Rather, this story is about what not to do if your wife doesn't know about it. At the age of 29, I, Van Mitchell, was a fairly happily married man. My wife Gloria, 28, is an intelligent, personable woman who has been blessed by nature with a good set of breasts, large enough to be noticed by even the casual observer. The only constant sore point in our marriage was my desire to have children as soon as possible. She did not have this desire. The other two characters in my story are Britta Thomas, née Nielsen, 32, and her husband Carl, 36. Britta worked at the same company as me. I am a computer engineer. She is a personnel manager. Britta is the type of woman who, if you had the chance to date, you would most likely fall in love with. She is sweet, smart, competent in everything she does, and stunningly beautiful. At 6 feet tall, she might be too tall for some guys. Since I'm 6 feet 4 inches tall, this isn't a problem for me. I often fantasize about seeing Britta naked. Although Britta and I weren't good friends at the beginning of this story, we were friendly to each other. A group of 12 employees went out for pizza at lunchtime once a month, and she and I were often in this group. We even sat next to each other twice. My only real one-on-one contact with her was when her computer died at a very inopportune time. Usually, someone from the IT department would immediately help the HR manager with her computer. But that day, the flu was raging in the IT department, and the only 2 employees who were not sick were tasked with a system-wide update that could not be delayed because the system possible malware has been detected. Because Britta and I had been with a group for lunch 2 days earlier, she called me in a panic. I immediately went to her office, fixed the problem in 10 minutes, ran a diagnostic on her computer, since I was there anyway and she was fine with it, and was able to extend a 15-minute job into a pleasant half-hour of communication. The only problem I had was my excitement, which pulled up my pants, forcing me to keep the computer manual on my pants in front of the tent when I went out so as not to be exposed as a pervert. While there is no need to go into all of the characters' relationships since elementary school, I need to tell you a little about myself to make this story realistic. I'm usually intellectually lazy. Although I had enough natural intelligence to graduate from a decent engineering school, I spent most of my time playing basketball, chasing women, working out, and drinking. I don't do any of that anymore except for training, which I do 5 days a week. I do a pretty good job, but I'm not a fanatic, and I don't do much more than I should. As a straight male, I occasionally look at adult sites on the internet. My wife knows, but her position is that if you're on a diet, you can still look at the dessert menu, just don't order the chocolate cake. While browsing a new website containing photos and some videos of a mater woman, I saw what I thought was the best booty I had ever seen in my life. The woman had long legs with killer hips, a perfect tight ass, spectacular round breasts, a flat stomach, photos that seemed to say, straight from the screen, "Take me." The photos were apparently taken with a hidden camera, and the goddess's face was blurred using a computer or phone app. There were about half a dozen photos of her, which I immediately copied and saved in a best photos file on my laptop at home. The only photo in which the goddess's face was not blurred was the one in which her face was not visible. This was my favorite photo. During this time, I looked at the photograph of the goddess several times a week for a month. Of course, all I could do for now was just watch. Our company loves to host family events. On Saturday, towards the beginning of July, we had a party at the boarding house where there was all kinds of entertainment, including a swimming pool. After a few friendly games of volleyball, I was sweating and decided to go for a swim, so I changed into a bathing suit, took a quick shower so as not to pollute the pool water, and went out to the pool deck. I saw my wife Gloria, looking very sexy in a bikini that I thought was too small for a corporate event, sitting on a lounge chair, sipping a Mai Tai and talking to other women. I quickly kissed Gloria, walked to the deep end of the pool, and performed a perfect swan dive from above. After several dives, I walked up the stairs from the deep end of the pool, and a picture of an attractive woman appeared before me. Even though the tall woman was wearing a rather conservative one-piece swimsuit, it was impossible to hide how curvy her body was. While I was looking at her from behind, wishing I was wearing sunglasses, she stopped, took off her hat and sunglasses, placed them on the lounge chair, and continued towards the diving board. I saw her face. It was Britta. As I watched her butt jiggle a little, I suddenly noticed something on her right thigh just below her butt. It was like tagging a favorite photo in the best photos folder on my laptop at home. There was a mark in the photo that could have been a birthmark or a tattoo of something very similar to a star. It turned out that Britta might have the same mark. I thought I quietly followed Britta for the next 15 minutes or so, trying to get a better look at her. I later learned that I was about as stealthy as a diesel truck. Finally, when I followed her up the high jump ladder at the pool, I got a really good look at her. It was a birthmark that really resembled a four-pointed star. After I came to my senses, I got dressed, lured Gloria out of the pool, and we had lunch with a few other couples. When I got home that evening, I looked closely at my favorite photo and enlarged it as much as I could. There was no doubt in my mind that the photograph showed Britta's mark on her right thigh. I immediately became excited. When I heard the shower running in the master bathroom, I quickly turned off the computer, undressed, and walked into Gloria's shower. My blitzkrieg of caresses took her by surprise, but apparently also ignited her desire. After a quick attempt to dry us off, I carried her to our bed. Our climaxes ended up being so intense that we both lost consciousness temporarily. When we came to our senses, I hugged her tightly. "What the hell was that just now, you animal?" she asked in a grateful but not sarcastic voice. "I suddenly imagined your hot body and decided that I had to take you immediately," I growled. Gloria giggled and we both quickly fell asleep, tired from our long day at the party and our excessive sex. When we woke up the next morning, I remembered not only the sex from the previous night, but also the dreams about fucking Britta. I forgot my embarrassment as soon as I took Gloria again. After finding out that it was Britta who was naked in photos on the internet, I couldn't figure out what to do. I thought about her blurry face in the 5 photos. I thought about just ignoring it all. I thought about telling her anonymously, and I thought about telling her in person. Every action or inaction had potential consequences. I was still thinking about it when I went to the site and found 2 more of her original photos and a short video. The short video did not show her entire face, but her chin and hair were visible, and she was engaged in self-pleasure. At that moment, given that I knew how conservative Britta had always been, I was sure that she did not know about the nude photos and videos on the internet, and if she did find out, she would definitely want to delete them. Then I realized that I had to do something. The first thing I did was try to reconstruct her face in one of the photographs to finally be sure that it was her. At the same time, if I could do it, it meant that others could too, and Britta certainly wouldn't want that. It was bad enough as it was. I called my only fraternity brother from college who was a computer major. Unlike me, he was really studious, and I knew he had completed his master's degree. After showing him this crap, I told him what I would like to do without explaining why. He replied, "First, you have to find out what application was used to blur. Once you figure that out, contact me and I will send you the appropriate software tool." He then gave me instructions on how to identify the blur application, warning me that it would take a long time. After working for about 15 to 20 minutes a night for a week, I finally found the right app. That Friday, I sent an encrypted email to my colleague, received the required tool as an attachment to his reply, and then took some time to perform the recovery. We had a busy weekend, and it wasn't until Sunday evening that I used this tool as instructed by a fellow worker. I used the most provocative photo where her face was blurred. After a few minutes, it became blurry. It was Britta. She looked damn sexy. By Wednesday afternoon of the following week, after a little soul-searching, I decided the best approach was to provide Britta with public source information in person. An anonymous email, even one sent to her personal email address and not her company email address, could be problematic. I really liked Britta, and if she killed the messenger, I would be very sorry, but it was the right thing to do. As luck would have it, Wednesday was one of our pizza days. Both she and I were present, but did not sit next to each other. During the 3-block walk back to our office, I separated her from the crowd and, after some small talk, took a deep breath. Britta, there's something really important I need to talk to you about. Do we have time this weekend where we can meet alone for 20 minutes tops? I think what's the matter? I'm sorry, but I won't feel comfortable saying anything about this until we're in a private setting. I guarantee this is what you need to know. Apparently, she saw the serious look on my face and the beads of sweat forming on my forehead, because after a pause, she said, "Okay, I'm working out at Planet Fitness in Chesterfield on Saturday morning. I'll finish at 9:30 and we can go to the park behind the building and talk. If you want, you can join me at 8:00 a.m. as a guest." Even though I have my own different training facility that I regularly go to on Saturday mornings, I agreed. By then, we had already returned to our office building. Saturday morning, Britta and I worked out at Planet Fitness, although it wasn't really together, since we used different equipment at different times, except for using the ellipticals side by side for cardio. She was a real workout freak, which partly explained how toned her body was. She was the object of desire of almost every man present, although she showed no sign of awareness of it, let alone interest. I got a few jealous looks when we were on the elliptical and chatted occasionally. We didn't shower after training, but around 9:40 we dried off and headed outside on this gorgeous morning. I retrieved the envelope from my car before we sat down on a secluded park bench, each with a bottle of water. "So, what's the big secret?" Britta smiled. I decided it was best to take a direct, very direct approach. While browsing a soft porn internet site, I came across nude photos and videos of you. The photos and videos indicate that they were taken with a hidden camera, that you didn't know about them. There are 8 photos and 1 video. In the photos, your face is blurred, but when I suspected you were in them, I restored one of them. In this envelope is a copy of each of the photos, including the one with your face restored, and a website where they and the videos can be found. At first, Britta thought it was a joke, but then, when I handed over the envelope, her face became serious. When she opened it, she gasped in shock and put her hand to her mouth. She did not turn the photographs towards me, and I looked anywhere but at her. Then she squealed softly and then swore. "That fucking bastard!" She looked at one photo much longer than the others. She hit me on the hand, showed it to me, and said, "Is this the photo that made you realize it was me?" Of course, it was the one from behind, where her birthmark was visible. I nodded my head affirmatively. "So that's why you sniffed my ass at the office party?" she asked. Her tone wasn't accusing, but it wasn't friendly either. Yes, but I didn't, knew that you, noticed," I muttered, feeling how my face turns red and sweat appears on my forehead, but not from working out. "I don't know if that makes you more or less of a pervert, but at least it explains everything," she snapped, making me blush even more. As she was clearly contemplating what to do, I felt the urge to explain. "Look, Britta, I thought long and hard about giving you this information. I only did it because, based on the pictures, you didn't know anything. And I'd bet $1 million that you didn't know about the video. If you need my help in removing them from the website, I could help, but the desire must come from you." Britta looked at me for a long time while I blushed and sweated even more. Finally, her expression softened, and she said, "I knew nothing about these photos and videos. It's clear to me that my husband Carl took them and published them, and he'll damn well pay for this. I understand that this was difficult for you to do this, and despite my initial reaction and my embarrassment at you seeing these photos, I sincerely thank you for this." With these words, she quickly kissed me on the lips, which scared me. Then, without further ado, she put everything back in the envelope, stood up, and said, "I'll contact you if I need help. Do you have any more copies of these photos?" "I promise I will destroy them," I replied nervously. "Wait until they are deleted and then do it," was her unexpected answer. A lot happened in the days following Saturday's revelation. Here are these events in no particular order. Britta quarreled with her husband Carl. From what I learned through rumors, and later directly from her, she threatened to divorce him. Gloria began to behave strangely. She was not usually moody, but now often, unlike usual, her behavior became aggressive, sexually provocative, distant or playful, sometimes all within the same hour. A few days after we met, Britta invited me to lunch. There she told me that, despite her and Carl's best efforts, the site, based in Eastern Europe, refused to remove the photos and videos because they are the most viewed content we have. Britta seemed very depressed, not at all as friendly as she usually was. That evening, after our dinner, I went to see a guy who was rumored to be a black hat hacker, although he considered himself a gray hat. I told him about a site that wouldn't remove the photos. He said he could help for $5,000, and for $10,000, he could guarantee the photos and videos will disappear forever. I showed my interest. That evening, I called Britta for the first time while she was at home. I explained what a black hat can do and how much it costs. I was assured that I could work as a mediator. I also guaranteed that if they were not removed, I would pay half the price. She sweetly declined my offer to pay. It's not your fault. It was all Carl's fault. And he'll pay, one way or another, but accepted my offer to mediate. I got the money from Britta and tracked down Damon, the black and gray hat, on Saturday morning. When I gave him the money, I exaggerated things a little. I told him that despite my degree, I could never compare to him when it came to computers, how wonderful the woman who was wronged, how grateful we were, and I even shed a few tears. He swallowed it. Damon called me on Thursday evening the following week using a burner phone. "Check out the website," he said with a chuckle. "You're a fucking genius," I blurted out. "Everything went a little better than planned," he continued. "The assholes who run the site had a big hole in their security system, and they paid for it," Grateful said with a laugh. "When I brought it to their attention, I became $100,000 richer. So, I'll give you $10,000 back if you and your friend come pick it up." I was again overwhelmed with gratitude. I checked the site and the photos and videos were indeed gone. I immediately called Britta at home and told her about his offer. She was confused. "You mean because he found a hole in their security system? They gave him $100,000 and took my photos and videos?" I chuckled. "That's what he meant, but I know that's not what happened. It was ransomware. He shut down the site and wouldn't give them the key to unlock it unless they paid him $100,000 in Bitcoin. When he unblocked the site, the offending materials were removed." "No way," was her response. On Saturday morning, we went to see Damon together. I knew damn well he just wanted to see her in the flesh, and I prepared her on how to proceed. "We want this guy on our side," I smiled. Britta played it right, praising Damon and giving him 2 big hugs, because she was 10 times more beautiful than any other woman who had ever touched him in his entire life. He had a smile as wide as Mississippi. As we were leaving, she told me, "There's no way in hell I'll tell my asshole husband that I got the money back. It'll be hidden in the company safe in the HR department." When I dropped her off at the house, there were tears in her eyes, and she said, "You have no idea how grateful I am," and then gave me a quick and then a long kiss on the lips. I vowed never to wash my face again. So, now you can come to the conclusion that this story has a happy ending for everyone involved. But don't be fooled. If you have lived long enough, you should know that no good deed goes unpunished. I felt really good on Saturday. However, I was still puzzled by Gloria's mood swings as she went through about 10 different changes throughout the day and night on Saturday. We had a great time at the dance club with friends, despite her mood swings, and had good sex when we got home. However, as I was drifting off to sleep, the thought occurred to me that although Gloria and I had been having sex often since she started getting moody, we weren't actually making love, which is what we used to do before. Gloria wasn't home when I got up on Sunday morning, which was a little strange. She left a cryptic note. "Some errands to run." She came back around 2 o'clock and immediately took off her top and said, "Take me to bed and take me." I thought this was a really great idea. When we were both relaxing after sex, she got an angry look on her face and asked, "Did you like being with me after the other one?" I looked at her, puzzled, standing up and leaning on my elbow. "What?" That was my smart answer. Well, since you obviously screwed that slut Britta, I thought I should return the favor, she replied with a devilish grin. What the hell are you talking about? I asked, raising my voice, but not yet shouting, because I thought and hoped that she might be joking. Don't play innocent, you bastard, she growled, practically throwing it in my face for the first time in our relationship, knowing that I would never hit her in anger. A week ago, you were seen kissing this slut in the park, and yesterday you went with her to God knows where and got more kisses. And then, of course, there are, or rather were, nude photographs of her in your desk drawer. Plus, you make a fool of myself sniffing her ass at a company party, following her around the pool. I was helping her, bitch, not having an affair, I yelled. Bullshit. I know, and now you know what it's like to be with me after another, she shouted back. Apparently, she interpreted my expression of confusion as one of disbelief, so she grabbed her phone from her purse on the floor, walked into her gallery, and said, "See for yourself. There are photos from today." There were a couple of photos of her satisfying a guy whose face was not visible, and then a short video of her being fucked. There could be no mistake. Everything was dated from today, and she was wearing rings and her hair was styled just like today. I immediately stood up and sent the photos to my phone, despite her attempt to stop me from doing so. I just walked into the bathroom and leaned against the door, and she didn't have nearly enough strength to open it. When I left, she behaved defiantly. So you think you can act the fool, but you don't like it when I do it? In as calm a voice as I could, I said, "The reason Britta kissed me on the lips, and your friends or spies saw it, was to thank me for removing from the internet the nude photos you saw on my desk. They were posted there without her permission, and when I found them, because as you know, and never minded, I sometimes look at adult sites, I told her about them. I'm going to call her now and you talk to her, otherwise I'll throw your bare ass from the fucking window." I had never spoken to Gloria like that before, and I could see the combination of fear, apprehension, and challenge in her eyes. I pushed her onto the bed, put the phone in my pants pocket as I pulled my pants back up, and then used the landline to call Britta's cell phone. Luckily, she answered the phone. "Hi, Van. How are you?" She greeted me, obviously seeing from the caller ID who the call was from. "Hey, Britta. Listen, I need you to tell Gloria everything about your nude photos, about our interactions, where they were posted, how we deleted them, everything. It's very important that you tell her the truth about everything." Okay. I guess, was her timid response. "I'll give her the phone now," I continued, and then handed the phone to Gloria. I had no desire to hang around here. I took a quick shower, got fully dressed, sent the marriage-killing photos Gloria showed me to my computer, and then went out for my first drink since college. I ended up getting a high that I swore I would never have again after high school. Then I took an Uber home to avoid getting into an accident. I was surprised when the Uber pulled up and saw Britta's car backing out of my driveway and heading the other way. When I stumbled into the house, I was greeted by a repentant Gloria. I glanced at her piercingly. I owe you an apology," she sobbed. "Oh, really? Why the fuck did you do that?" I growled at her. "Britta showed me tapes of her meetings with you, and it became clear to me that you were not having an affair with her, and you were just helping her. But you should have told me." It was news to me that Britta was recording our conversations. I guess it was technically against the law since ours is a bipartisan state, but I had nothing to hide, and now I was glad she did. Despite my condition, I was aware enough to interrupt Gloria and shout, "Yes, you are going to have sex, and then you force me to be with you after another." That was a completely normal reaction on your part. I'm damn sorry for trying to stop Britta from being embarrassed even more than she already was. She's the reason I didn't tell you what I did, you fucking bitch. With that, I stumbled into the guest bedroom, locked the door, put on earplugs, and fell into a fitful sleep. Although I didn't know it for sure on Monday morning when I woke up with a hangover, it was the end of my marriage. Gloria's refusal to talk to me, and then her extremely hostile response, were too much for me to bear. Although I did go to 3 consultations with her, they did not help. I just couldn't stand it. So, without even touching her again, a month after that Monday morning, I filed for divorce. I tried to get Gloria to tell me who her sex buddy was. Even when I lied and said it could save the marriage, she obviously didn't believe me and knew damn well I'd beat the crap out of him. So she never gave in. As soon as I served her, I told her, "Be sure to tell your friend that if I ever find out who he is, I will beat him to a pulp. Since it is not in my rules to beat a woman, he will take your place." After that, Gloria realized there was no apology or anything she could do to save our relationship, so the divorce went quickly, split 50-50, with no alimony for either party. We sold the condominium and moved to apartments on opposite ends of the city. At that moment, I was truly happy that we never had children. Britta and I remained friends throughout my divorce process, and she even joined some of my friends in taking me to a baseball game. I never drank again to celebrate my divorce, which came just 4 months after Gloria's. Documents were submitted. We never discussed the circumstances of my divorce in detail, but from the fact that she met Gloria in person on that infamous Sunday, it was clear that she knew most of it. Then, 2 months after my divorce, Britta came into my office on a Thursday, I don't remember her doing this before, and closed the door. "Van, can I invite you to dinner tomorrow night? There's something really important I need to talk to you about." I had my plans, but you can bet your sweet ass that I would have canceled them all, because then I could have been staring at Britta and because I got really curious. Sure, I answered. "When and where?" "How about we meet at Morton's on Vine at 7 p.m., wearing casual clothes?" She smiled. "Great. See you soon then," I replied. She smiled again and then walked out of my room, leaving the door open as if she hadn't noticed her. It was obvious that Britta was nervous during dinner. She actually lost her cool to tell me what she wanted while in the restaurant, partly because we were sitting next to several other couples. She suggested we talk in my car. I tried to pay at least half of the dinner bill, but she refused. There are some things in life that you can easily predict. Others are actually unpredictable, but not particularly surprising. Still, others strike you like lightning thrown by Zeus. What Britta wanted to talk about fell into the third category. Since the temperature outside was pleasant, we cracked the windows and she mostly looked straight ahead as she spoke, occasionally meeting my gaze as I kept looking at her. The essence of her statements shocked me so much that it is difficult for me to forget them. Carl continues to beg me not to divorce him and is doing everything he can to hush it up. He just doesn't believe that I don't trust him anymore and that fighting the divorce won't help him. "Is it because of your photos and videos being posted on the internet?" I asked. "That's a big part of what's going on because it's such a breach of trust that it boggles my mind. However, it's also because he doesn't think it was that big of a deal, and in relationships with other people, he's far from nobility, and in general his character is not what I imagined when we got married," Britta said and sighed. "Besides, I want kids, and as soon as possible. And although he said he wanted them before we got married, that's not the case now. Finally, and I probably shouldn't tell you this, sex with him is more like on Labor Day than on the 4th of July. There was too much information for me, and at first I could not react. So what do you want to talk to me about? Well, I came up with a way to make it very clear to him that it's over between us so that he won't fight the divorce I filed for last week, even though we still live in the house together. Since you're the only man I know, I think, except for Damon, but he doesn't fit the bill. Whoever has seen me naked, at least in photographs, you're the man for the job." "What the fuck?" flashed through my head, but I didn't say it out loud. Britta looked at me nervously, then turned away and continued, "I want Carl to find us in my bedroom looking like we just had sex. Actually, you might want to keep your boxers on so we can pretend to start getting dressed after sex. Anyway," Britta continued, and her voice sounded apprehensive, determined, and nervous at the same time. It would do the trick. "Can he be cruel?" I asked. "He's not a violent man, and he doesn't have a gun or any other weapon. There's nothing in the house except kitchen knives, which I'll hide. And you're 4 inches taller, 30 pounds heavier, and out of our occupations at the gym. I know you're in shape and he's not, and you're twice as strong as him. Britta blurted out in one sentence, clearly very worried. Can I think about it? I asked. I know you could do it, but if you can't, I'll have to find someone else, and I can't think of anything as effective, she replied quickly. Yes, I could. Would dancing relax you and help you make decisions? I think yes, that would help. I smiled at her. Then let's go to that new dance club on Brighton Street. She grinned. That's what we did. I was delighted. Britta is an excellent dancer, and during Latin dances and slow songs she fit perfectly into my arms. After that, Gloria realized there was no apology or anything she could do to save our relationship, so the divorce went quickly, split 50-50, with no alimony for either party. We sold the condominium and moved to apartments on opposite ends of the city. At that moment, I was truly happy that we never had children. Britta and I remained friends throughout my divorce process, and she even joined some of my friends in taking me to a baseball game. I never drank again to celebrate my divorce, which came just 4 months after Gloria's. Documents were submitted. We never discussed the circumstances of my divorce in detail, but from the fact that she met Gloria in person on that infamous Sunday, it was clear that she knew most of it. Then, 2 months after my divorce, Britta came into my office on a Thursday, I don't remember her doing this before, and closed the door. Van, can I invite you to dinner tomorrow night? There's something really important I need to talk to you about. I had my plans, but you can bet your sweet ass that I would have canceled them all, because then I could have been staring at Britta and because I got really curious. Sure, I answered. When and where? How about we meet at Morton's on Vine at 7 p.m., wearing casual clothes? She smiled. Great. See you soon then, I replied. She smiled again and then walked out of my room, leaving the door open as if she hadn't noticed her. It was obvious that Britta was nervous during dinner. She actually lost her cool to tell me what she wanted while in the restaurant, partly because we were sitting next to several other couples. She suggested we talk in my car. I tried to pay at least half of the dinner bill, but she refused. There are some things in life that you can easily predict. Others are actually unpredictable, but not particularly surprising. Still, others strike you like lightning thrown by Zeus. What Britta wanted to talk about fell into the third category. Since the temperature outside was pleasant, we cracked the windows and she mostly looked straight ahead as she spoke, occasionally meeting my gaze as I kept looking at her. The essence of her statements shocked me so much that it is difficult for me to forget them. Carl continues to beg me not to divorce him and is doing everything he can to hush it up. He just doesn't believe that I don't trust him anymore and that fighting the divorce won't help him. Is it because of your photos and videos being posted on the internet? I asked. That's a big part of what's going on because it's such a breach of trust that it boggles my mind. However, it's also because he doesn't think it was that big of a deal, and in relationships with other people, he's far from nobility, and in general his character is not what I imagined when we got married, Britta said and sighed. Besides, I want kids, and as soon as possible. And although he said he wanted them before we got married, that's not the case now. Finally, and I probably shouldn't tell you this, sex with him is more like on Labor Day than on the 4th of July. There was too much information for me, and at first I could not react. So what do you want to talk to me about? Well, I came up with a way to make it very clear to him that it's over between us so that he won't fight the divorce I filed for last week, even though we still live in the house together. Since you're the only man I know, I think, except for Damon, but he doesn't fit the bill. Whoever has seen me naked, at least in photographs, you're the man for the job. What the fuck? Flashed through my head, but I didn't say it out loud. Britta looked at me nervously, then turned away and continued. I want Carl to find us in my bedroom looking like we just had sex. Actually, you might want to keep your boxers on so we can pretend to start getting dressed after sex. Anyway, Britta continued, and her voice sounded apprehensive, determined, and nervous at the same time. It would do the trick. Can he be cruel? I asked. He's not a violent man, and he doesn't have a gun or any other weapon. There's nothing in the house except kitchen knives, which I'll hide. And you're 4 inches taller, 30 pounds heavier, and out of our occupations at the gym. I know you're in shape and he's not, and you're twice as strong as him." Britta blurted out in one sentence, clearly very worried. "Can I think about it?" I asked. "I know you could do it, but if you can't, I'll have to find someone else, and I can't think of anything as effective," she replied quickly. "Yes, I could. Would dancing relax you and help you make decisions?" "I think yes, that would help." I smiled at her. "Then let's go to that new dance club on Brighton Street," she grinned. That's what we did. I was delighted. Britta is an excellent dancer, and during Latin dances and slow songs she fit perfectly into my arms. Since she weighed about 150 pounds, she wasn't used to having someone strong enough to do lifts with her, but I did. Although I didn't drink, and Britta doesn't usually, I think she was nervous about our conversation in the car and used the drink to calm herself down. By the time we left the club at 1 a.m., she was pretty horny. I didn't want Britta to drive, not even the 1 mile from the restaurant where her car was parked to her house. But she said she needed the car the next morning. So I dropped her off at her house with a quick kiss on the lips and a thank you, took her keys, walked the mile back to the restaurant, then drove her car to her house and left the keys in the mailbox. The mile walk to the car gave me time to think. After I tossed things back and forth, my divorced, uninhibited self said to my more cautious self, "At least you get to see her naked in person. You can stop yourself from acting like an asshole, so do it." Who knows? I tried my best not to think about the rest. On Sunday night, I called Britta and said, "I'm on board with your plan, as long as you still want to go ahead and think it will work." "Thank you so much, Van. Yes, I want to do this, and I know it will work." She practically smiled into the phone. So on Friday, I was at Britta's house by 4 p.m. I was nervous. Britta was nervous. Even the inanimate objects in the master bedroom seemed nervous as we waited for Carl to come home. I probably asked 4 or 5 times when he was likely to arrive, but Britta wasn't offended that she had to answer so often. Perhaps because of her nervousness, she did not remember that I had asked her before. "Any time between 4:30 and 5 boro," she said. I was naked except for my boxers, but the rest of my clothes were laid out so I could quickly get dressed. Around 4:40, we heard the outside garage door open, then the inside garage door open and close, and what appeared to be a briefcase was placed on the kitchen table. When we heard footsteps on the stairs, Britta took off her robe as planned, and I pretended to put on the first leg of my pants. I tried not to look at Britta, but it was impossible. She looked even better in real life than in the photographs. It was clear that there was no reason to touch up her photographs. Carl pushed open the master bedroom door, asking, "Britta, are you there?" His eyes bulged as he entered. Britta gasped, good acting, and then said, "I'm sorry you had to see that, Carl, but I told you it was over between us. You should have accepted it." There was a miserable look on his face that, if I hadn't known all the many good reasons why Britta was divorcing him, would have made me feel sorry for him. He sighed heavily, making a sound that was somewhere between a squeal, a sob, and a cry, staggered for a few seconds, then turned and walked away. We froze as we heard him walk down the stairs, heard the interior garage door open and close again, his car start, the exterior garage door close, and then there was silence. All this time I was waiting for Britta to start getting dressed. She didn't. She was still completely naked. Then she came straight to me and said, "I'm sorry it was so sad, but it had to be done. Thank you for your help." Maybe there's a straight guy out there somewhere who's like me, despite not having sex in over 4 months, and despite thinking of Britta as the sexiest woman on the planet, with her naked body in close proximity and seemingly begging for attention, could resist her. I'm not strong enough to be that guy. I grabbed her, pulled her towards me, and started caressing her like crazy. Britta just ran her fingers through my hair and moaned, "Oh, God. Oh, yes." Sex with Britta was magical and exhausting. A long, indefinite period of time passed before we both came to our senses completely and stopped moaning. Britta spoke first. "Thank you, Van. It was wonderful." I chuckled. I must have had an out-of-body experience because I thought I just heard the hottest woman on earth give me the sex I've ever had in my life and then thanked me. Can't we thank each other? She giggled. Hell yes. Thank you, goddess. After a few pleasant conversations in private, she had a shy expression on her face. I have to confess something. I was hoping it could end up like this. There's no way in hell I could resist you, I replied, and then kissed her passionately. As far as I remember, the bone of contention between you and your ex-wife was your desire to have children, and she had no such desire. And correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you have the same desire that I have, and don't Carl have the same desire as Gloria? A wide smile appeared on Britta's face. Do you think we'll want to have kids together? I know this will happen, but first let me have an affair with you. Since Carl is unlikely to ever come back, why don't you pack your bag and come see me for the weekend? Is there room for me in your bed? She giggled. It's a big size, so if we mess up one side, we'll just move it to the other. That suits me. She laughed. We got dressed and I changed the sheets on her bed and put the ones we made love on in her laundry room while she packed her bag. She followed me to my apartment in her car. After I cooked her a light dinner, we began the serious task of using the rest of the weekend to determine our sexual compatibility. Although our little trick on Carl was cruel, he got it right. Britta spent most of the 4 months their divorce worked its way through the court system in my apartment. We made a plan to test our compatibility and stuck to it. Luckily, after the first month, there was little doubt that we were as sexually compatible as possible. There were no serious problems outside the bed either. Our biological clocks seemed to be in sync, as were our libidos, and we had a lot in common, as well as enough differences to really make life interesting. Since we worked in different departments of the company and were not part of the same management tree, our relationship, which we did not hide from our colleagues, did not have a negative impact on our work. However, there were a few disappointed people who would have liked to have had a chance with Britta or with me, but they were discouraged by the closeness of our relationship. The day Britta's divorce became final, I was beaming with happiness. After celebrating that night when we went to bed, we had the most sincere love-making of our entire lives. I had never felt more at peace when I told her without mincing words that I loved her and wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. Britta smiled and kissed me. I love you too, and it's lucky that we love each other, because I have some news. A meaningful pause, and finally, I'm 6 weeks pregnant. I was too shocked to respond, and when I finally got around to answering, she was fast asleep, and I too soon found myself in dreamland. The next morning, I kissed her and then took her face in my hands. I'm not sure I heard you correctly last night. Did you say you were pregnant? Yes, about 6 weeks pregnant. She smiled. How did this happen? This was my next question, which was formulated so ridiculously. I mean, weren't you on birth control? I mixed up my pills, she replied with a big smile. I thought you were giving injections. I broke my schedule and this is my story and I'm sticking to it, she replied this time with an even bigger grin. I guess that means I'll have to marry you. Then he joked, Does your dad have a shotgun? I bet my ass he is and he won't let his little girl have babies without a ring on her finger, she retorted this time with an even wider smile. You think I'll agree to anything you want, don't you? I feigned anger. I didn't think her smile could get wider, but it did. Yes, but your compensation will be that you will be the most sexually satisfied man in the world. 10 years later, life was not just good, it became fantastically good. We seem to fall more in love every month, and we are madly in love with our 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. Sometimes the 3 women in the family gang up on us 2 poor Y chromosome types, but we always seem to survive just fine, even if we don't win. The best thing, besides the kids while they're growing up, is that I don't have to look at pictures of what I think is the best female figure on the planet. Every night I have a real woman with the best female figure in bed with me. Every day I take a few minutes to thank Carl for posting these photos online and Gloria for her overactive imagination and impulsiveness. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.